Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and good morning. I came out this morning to my sort of go-to seascapey spot that's not too far away to test out this new set of magnetic ND filters, but unless the sun decides to show an appearance behind those clouds up there, which it doesn't look like it's going to do for hours, then it's probably not the time and place. It's about 2 hours after sunrise, but the highest tide for the full day today right now, so that's why I'm here at this time. Outside of that, I thought I'd answer a few questions that I've gathered via the community tab on YouTube and Instagram as well. First question, how/why did you get into making YouTube videos? Was it a difficult learning curve and does it take up a lot of your time each week? Without going down too much of a rabbit hole, I actually had a few YouTube channels when I was a kid, when YouTube was quite new. So I always loved making videos and sharing videos in that sense. They weren't photography YouTube videos, of course. When I first got into photography properly and decided this is actually a path I want to go down, I always felt like I wanted to make YouTube videos. And then I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard somebody say on a video or a podcast somewhere that there's always somebody in the world that's just starting out that will learn and have respect for what you have to say, being a little bit further ahead of them. So once I heard that, I decided, yeah, that's it. Either I do it now and I try it, or I never try it and know if it will go anywhere or whether I'll enjoy it. So from that day forward, I decided that's it, I'm gonna make YouTube videos. What was the other part of the question? The learning curve. Yeah, pretty difficult. I mean, I already knew how to set up a camera and film videos and stuff from making like cinematic-y visual explory videos. The hardest part, probably one of the hardest tasks I've had in my life actually, is learning how to talk to a camera properly. The first time I set up a camera in my office and tried to talk to it, I just looked at it like this and I couldn't even get words to come out because it was so unnatural. Some people have just got a knack for it, but I definitely didn't. So that was a big learning curve. Audio was a big learning curve because I had pretty much no knowledge of mics or anything like that. Does it take up a lot of my time? It does, but I'm also very, very passionate about it, and it's kind of how I want to be spending my time anyway, so it never really feels as if I wish that I had more free time, because it is how I want to be spending my time, if that makes sense. Next question, would you ever use any other camera systems than Sony? Do you also take all your gear on vacation, or do you ever leave your hobby work at home to just cool off? Yeah, I've used Nikon, Canon, Pentax, Kodak, quite a few different brands in the past. My all-time favorite camera brand is actually Canon, and if I could swap everything over, my bodies, my lenses, and all the bits and bobs that I use, I would probably swap back to Canon. The only reason I shoot Sony is because in 2017, when mirrorless cameras were really coming up and I was in need for a major upgrade, Sony simply had the best offerings for the best price at the time, the best hybrid offerings, and they also had the best mirrorless lens lineup that wouldn't set you back £1 billion if you needed a couple of lenses. The problem with, obviously, with cameras and lens mounts and the prices of lenses, once you start to build up a little bit of a kit, it gets really hard to jump around different camera brands because you simply can't warrant selling your gear and then buying new gear, regardless of whether you buy used gear or whatever. What was the second part? Do you also take your gear on vacation, or do you ever leave your hobby work at home? Yeah, I do pretty much take my gear on all the trips that I go on, but sometimes it's a very, very condensed kit, like the small A7C2 and one lens, just so I've got it with me, and I might not really plan to take many photos, but if I do see something, I have got a camera with me there to take the shot. Also, because I don't travel very often, most of the trips that I do go on are based around photography anyway, so obviously I'm going to take my gear. So I guess most of my cooling off and downtime comes when I'm actually at home and don't go out with my camera at home instead, and they're like my rest days, if you will. This will be an interesting test to see how these filters deal with really dark shadows, because this foreground here in this frame that I've framed up is very, very dark, and I've obviously exposed correctly for the histogram to make sure I retain as much detail as possible. And the sky is very ugly and bright over there, so we've got a big big contrast from top to bottom, so this will be nice to see how the filter handles the dark portions of the image. So the main reason I'm actually testing these filters is because for the entire pack you get the 10-stop ND, which is on the front of that camera, the 6, which is on the one that I'm filming on right now, you get a CPL, a UV, you get a nice magnetic lens cap as well that goes on the front. This is the Freewell M2 kit, if anybody's wondering, magnetic, which is what I wanted to try out. And as I was saying, the entire kit is the same price or a little bit more expensive as one of the square filters that I use. So I wanted to test the quality versus that to know if having a kit like this is actually way more cost efficient and effective, because they're magnetic and you don't have to mess around with the square plates on the front, and you don't have to take the filter on and off. You can just, you get what I'm saying. So before we walk down that way, let's just do one quick question, because this is a quick one, and it's what's your favorite setup? I assume you mean camera setup. My favorite setup out of the gear that I own just for walking around and taking photos on a daily basis is the A7 IV and the 50mm. It's just nice and small, compact, you can get great photos with it. Love the 50mm focal length, and you can stick it in a small bag as well. So that's my favorite go-to right now. It changes all the time, to be honest. If I could afford the 24-70 G Master Mark II, then it'd probably be that lens instead of the 50, because it's just a bit more versatile. Tell you what I want to test actually, how sharp it is if we get in close to these rocks down here. How much detail can we retain? And I'm just going to do a very, very random shot pointing down at the rocks here and see if they remain nice and sharp. What's your dream shot to add to your portfolio? As of right now, after seeing last year's wildlife photographer, or was it this year's? I think it might have been this year's wildlife photography of the year winners and the honourable mentions and stuff like that, polar bears would be my dream shot right now on an iceberg. I mean, I'm not very well travelled, so I've got about 1 billion dream shots to add to my portfolio, but right now that's the one that I'm like, would absolutely love to photograph something like that one day. Maybe, fingers crossed. I would like to know your most embarrassing photography moment. Well, I guess for something to be embarrassing, you have to be, someone else has to witness it, right, for you to feel embarrassed. And given I'm alone like 99% of the time when I do photography, I don't have really any times I've felt embarrassed. I did once get chased back into my car by a sheep in the Faroe Islands, but I got chased back into the passenger side of the car. So then I had to climb over into the driver's seat, which was pretty ridiculous. I couldn't get back out the car because it was at my door. Sheeps aren't normally scary, but this particular sheep did not take a liking to me. Must be because I'm English. Your editing workflow and desk setup. My desk setup is probably the most boring in the entire world. It's a sit-stand desk, electric one, because health. And I've got a maxed out M1 iMac on the desk. And that's it. I like my space to be nice and clear and clutter-free because I work best in those kind of environments. I do obviously have coffee cups and bits and bobs that end up on the desk, but for the most part, try and keep it nice and clean and tidy. And there's a couple of prints above the desk, as I'm sure you've seen in one of my videos before. Editing setup, I'll do a full A to B editing workflow eventually on this channel at some point, but that's also kind of boring because I don't really do that much to my photos, to be honest. What's your view on AI? Do you use generative fill, remove and denoise, or replace skies? I've actually made a full video on my opinion on AI on my channel, so if you want a full-on good old-fashioned rant, then go check out that video. But I think there's a lot of really good uses for AI outside of the art world. Obviously, if someone's passing off art to be original when it's actually AI and not disclosing that, then it's not cool at all, is it? But at the same time, it's kind of our responsibility as humans to decides what to consume for one. So if you're against AI, you don't like AI, simply don't consume it, block it out of your life. In terms of using it myself, in terms of gen fill, denoise, sky replacement, what was the other one? And remove features. I've used it a little bit here and there. I don't really use it in my photography because I don't really have the need to. I like my images to look like what they look like on the day. Sky replacement, not a fan of. I've used it a couple of times, but the sky was a second exposure just to get the exposure correct on the day. So again, exposure bracketing exists, so that's not really cheating in my eyes. If you're a good editor and you've been around photography for a long time, I think it's quite easy to spot. Like I saw a photo the other day, an old photo of Sycamore Gap, where it was like quite green and normal, like clearly a midday shot, and then they just stuck a sunset on, and I was like, come on, man. Like, it's clearly a replaced sky, do better. In short, you could wipe all the AI generative fill, blah, blah, blah features off the face of the earth and I would not need them or notice that they were gone really, because I can do all of that stuff manually, and people, photographers, editors, etc. have been doing all that stuff manually for a long time, since the dawn of Photoshop anyway. So realistically, if you're gonna use gen fill or the remove tool to take out a crisp packet or a leaf, I don't really see the problem with that, because you can do that manually anyway, and you have been able to for a long time. So all it really does is make it more accessible and easier for everyone to use. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it right now. I don't really let it bother me. I don't really let it anger me. If I come across a page that's clearly AI, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, you do you. Just carry on. I don't really use it in my work all that much, but it's good that the tools are there at our disposal. That's my opinion on it right now. I'm sure it will change over the years as well, as it gets better and better and becomes more of a threat. All right, I hope you enjoyed. I know this video was a little bit something different, but I came out to test the filters and thought I'd just talk to the camera at the same time, I guess. Some of the photos I think were okay, but I'll get a better idea of the quality of these filters when I get back and edit them, and also I'll make a full comprehensive video about them if I decide they're actually better than the £100 per filter setup that I've been using in the past. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.